Good afternoon, everybody. Well, good morning and good afternoon. For those of you not on the East Coast, good morning. It is straight up 12 o'clock, and we are going to be very cognizant of your time and respectful. And just want to give everybody maybe just less than a minute to get settled in, take a look at the screen, make sure that you are ready to learn a little bit about HSAs. So as you're doing that, I will just mention a couple of things. First of all, you know what? It's 12:01. Let's get started. Yep. My name is Becky Crutchfield. I am the Director of Partner Growth and Business Development for Clarity Benefit Solutions. And I'm here with my colleague, Eddie Larned, who is going to introduce himself.
Thanks, Becky, and good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Eddie Larned. I am Vice President of Broker Sales with Clarity Benefit Solutions. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to taking a deep dive into HSAs.
So here's what we're going to talk about, the HSA today, how people are actually using their HSAs and how they should be. Here's how we're going to roll through it. The importance of HSAs, what people know about HSAs, how people are using HSAs, why it matters, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions and answers. We usually get a lot of questions, so we're going to, this is a really packed agenda, so we're going to try to scoot through it as quickly as possible, but I think you'll be really glad that you're here. A couple of housekeeping things. Everybody's on mute, so don't worry if you make a noise, we won't be able to hear you. However, if you need to talk to us, if there's a technical issue or something that you need help with immediately, just put it in the chat in the Q&A, and we have a team on the background that's gonna in the background that's gonna answer all your questions. Also, any questions that you have for us that we can answer either throughout the presentation or at the end, you can put those in there too. And keep in mind that because this is for CE, it actually tracks how long you're on the call. So just make sure that you're here for the entire time. We've put in a few poll questions so that, first of all, we can just kind of see where you are. It's a little bit more interactive, and it also tracks just, you know, that everybody's paying attention and everything. But I promise it's going to be great information. We really want to help build your businesses. So, and then we'll talk about the CE credit afterward. One quick mention about Virginia. If you are from Virginia and you are receiving CE credit, make sure that you download the disclosure that they require for your state. And with that, oh, last thing about the poll questions. Make sure you answer the poll questions in the widget that appears on your screen. If you don't see it, just hit us up in the Q&A, and you know, if you don't see it, then just hit us up in the Q&A and we'll help you find it. But I think you're going to understand it once we get started. So without further ado, let's dive in. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how people are actually using HSAs today in the key areas of spending, saving, and investing. And we'll suggest how they could and should be using them effectively going forward. Plus, we'll touch on why more effective HSA usage is good for everyone involved, including employees, employers, and brokers. So, as these statistics show, HSAs are becoming more and more popular. More than half of employers now offer high deductible health plans, which is the type of plan that's required to also offer an HSA. There are now more than 32 million HSAs out there, which is an 8% year-over-year increase. And it's projected there will be 38 million HSAs by 2024. Not only are there more HSAs now, they are also holding more money. Assets held in HSAs have reached nearly $100 billion, and the trend there is upward as well. In the future, many more people may be eligible for HSAs, not just those with qualified high deductible health plans. In 2022, Congress proposed 3 pieces of legislation related to HSAs. One that would expand access for seniors, one that would expand access for children, and one that would expand access for everyone with any type of health insurance, not just qualified high deductible health plans. Now, none of these bills became law in the 2022 Congress, and we don't know yet if they will be taken up in the 2023 Congress. But this does show that there are government advocates for making HSAs even more accessible to even more people in the future. So with that, I'm gonna ask Eddie if he'll do our first poll question and get things moving.
All right, first poll question is, what percentage of your clients currently offer a high deductible health plan with an HSA? So as Becky mentioned, you should be able to select this on your screen here. And you can answer that as 76% to 100%, 51 to 75, 26 to 50%, or 0 to 25%. So we will give everyone a couple of seconds here to go ahead and answer this question, and then we can check out the poll results. Again, the question is, what percentage of your clients would you estimate currently offer a high deductible health plan with an HSA? All right, and some of the early responses here are around the 26 to 50% is leading the way with about 40%. So you can see, I think most of it is really clustered around the middle, which aligns with that statistic that Becky just read a minute ago. Thank you for your participation in the first question.
Thanks, Eddie. So employers are going to be dealing with the repercussions of what's been termed the Great Resignation. The Great Resignation describes the elevated rate at which U.S. workers resigned from their jobs starting in the spring of 2021 amid strong labor demand and low unemployment, even as vaccinations eased the severity of the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, nearly 4 million Americans quit their jobs every month, which is the highest average on record, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. These statistics show that employee turnover is a serious ongoing challenge, both for employers trying to attract and retain talent, and for employees just trying to make it every day. Eddie, are you seeing the Great Resignation still leaving its mark on the industry here?
Yeah, I definitely am. I think this is a big pain point for companies and for employers. You know, these are the types of statistics that keep a CEO awake at night. And provide stress to all, managers and leadership and HR professionals. It's become really challenging to attract and retain talented employees. It used to be that an employee would spend 10 or 20 or 30 years at one organization. Now we see a lot more turnover. People job hop and might spend 1 or 2 or 3 years at an organization. And we all know how expensive it is, how expensive turnover is, and training new employees and recruiting and finding new talent. So it's definitely pretty compelling. And as you can see here on the top left, 47.8 million Americans quit their jobs during 2021. That's just a crazy number. And so I think CEOs and HR professionals and managers are trying to figure out what they can do to kind of minimize that turnover and keep those talented employees.
Thanks, Eddie. So as a result of the Great Resignation, talent acquisition and retention are top priorities for employers, according to HR Trends report. One key strategy to attract and retain talent is to offer more attractive benefits packages. You all know this already, but because as these numbers show, benefits are important to employees. In fact, benefits are the number 2 reason that people look for new jobs, and 90% of employees would take better healthcare benefits over a pay raise. So Eddie, I know we're going to elaborate a little on how HSAs fit into the equation in the next couple of slides, but as someone who sees how people are using the HSAs, tell us a little bit about what it looks like out there.
Yeah, I mean, these are interesting statistics. I think it's no surprise that salary and total compensation is always going to be the number 1 reason, that people look for new jobs or stay at a job. But it is definitely compelling that benefits are that second option. And look, we're not suggesting that someone's going to choose one company over another because they do or don't offer an HSA, but an HSA can be an important component of the benefits package. And something that certain account holders or participants really enjoy and take advantage of. So it can fit into this overall benefits package. And as you can see with these 3 statistics right here, it is important. It is something that employees look at.
And it's pretty easy. I mean, HSAs are shaping up to be a very important benefit for employers to offer. In an article titled Convergence Between Retirement and Benefits is Just Beginning, Benefits Pro pointed out that employers, employees, and benefits providers are all taking a more holistic approach to managing benefits. Now, this includes an enhanced attention to adding more mental health components to healthcare benefits, tying into a broader view of overall well-being that goes beyond traditional medical surgical care. It also includes looking beyond healthcare benefits, particularly to financial planning and retirement benefits, to have a more complete, better understanding of all one's benefits, how they relate to each other, and how they can most effectively be used together. Eddie, you like this slide, don't you?
I do like this slide, Becky. I really think of an HSA as kind of the fusion between financial well-being and your retirement and long-term saving and investments, and also your more short-term tax savings and the ability to use this for health-related expenses. It kind of bridges these two categories together, which makes it an even more valuable employee benefit because it is touching both the long-term, the short-term, the medical, dental, vision benefits, but also retirement. So it's almost kind of like a fusion of a 401k and an FSA in some senses. We're going to dive into that a little bit later and talk about some of the differences there. But I do like, how it touches kind of both sides of that spectrum when it comes to benefits.
So HSAs are growing in popularity, and we expect that trend to continue. But let's take a step back. In the world of employee benefits, HSAs are still relatively new, and their features may be unfamiliar to many, especially those not in the field. So what exactly is an HSA? According to healthcare.gov, a health savings account is a type of savings account that lets you set aside money on a pre-tax basis to pay for qualified medical expenses. It must be used in conjunction with a high deductible health plan with HSA eligibility. And account holders can use their HSAs to pay for out-of-pocket expenses such as co-pays, co-insurance, deductibles, doctor visits, hospital charges, prescription drugs, dental and orthodontic services, and vision care glasses and contacts. Basically, it's a way employers try to help offset some of the pain of the higher deductibles that are part and parcel of the high deductible health plans, just by providing tax-free savings on an employee's out-of-pocket spending. So that's the big picture theory of HSAs. But theory and practice, of course, two different things, which brings us to part two. What do people actually know about their HSAs? Eddie, give us another poll question.
All right, poll question number 2. How confident are you in your knowledge of HSAs? And you can answer this as highly, supremely, awesomely confident, or hopefully somewhat a little bit confident, or hardly sure about anything confident. So as we did with our prior poll question, we'll give everyone just a couple of seconds to go ahead and answer this. Always interesting to get a pulse on, how folks feel about their knowledge of HSAs. And always interesting to compare this from, our broker, consultant, general agent partners versus employer feedback. So it looks like we have quite a few responses coming in already. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and we'll check out the responses here. So I think this is pretty much in line with what we've seen over the course of our CE this spring. We have the bulk of you responding that you're somewhat a little bit confident. Nice to see that, almost 37% of you do feel very confident. That's great. And hopefully everyone can, walk away from today's CE feeling a little bit more confident than they were before.
Thanks, Eddie. What about our clients?
So same question, but now we're asking you how you think your clients feel as far as their confidence in HSAs. My guess is it's probably a little bit lower than our broker and consultant partners here, which makes sense. We're, benefits professionals. So let's give everyone a couple seconds to answer the same question. But again, the difference here is on behalf of your clients. What do you think their knowledge level is when it comes to health savings accounts?
I love these options. Highly, supremely, awesomely confident. Sorry.
Love it. All right, let's go ahead and check these out. And as we suspected, 0% say highly, supremely, awesomely confident. So not surprised to see that feedback there. So thank you again for your participation in these questions.
So when it comes to the general population of HSA users, they are not at all confident. That's just what we see. More than 90% want to learn more. Nearly a quarter admit that they know little or nothing. Now, most troubling, 1 out of 3 of them have not even opened an HSA they are eligible for. Now, with that in mind, we're going to take a quick pop quiz. This is one you can actually answer in the Q&A. We're always curious to see the answers, or you can just answer it in your head. Focus on some of the areas that cause people the most confusion about HSAs. So true or false, HSA balances roll over from year to year. True or false, HSAs are portable. True or false, HSAs have annual contribution limits. Finally, true or false, anyone is eligible for an HSA. Okay, now I know that you got all of these right, but these are the primary areas that really cause confusion amongst typical HSA users. So you'll want to be aware of them when talking about HSAs with your client. Number 1, HSA balances roll over. This is true. It's a key difference, the key difference between HSAs and FSAs. There's no use it or lose it penalty. HSAs are portable. Number 2, this is also true. The account is owned by the employee, not the employer, so it can be moved from job to job. Number 3, HSAs have annual contribution limits. This is also true. The IRS sets yearly contribution limits for single and family account holders. And number 4, anyone is eligible. This one is false. As we've mentioned, you have to be enrolled in a qualified high deductible health plan just to qualify for an HSA. So the crux of what makes HSAs stand out from other employee benefits, whether they're focused on healthcare or finances, is the triple tax savings, triple tax advantages. You're going to hear this 100 times today, so make sure you take note. This is what makes HSAs unique. The money you put into them can go in without any taxes being taken out. The money that builds in the account from interest or investment gains accrues without taxes being assessed, and the money you take out to pay for qualified expenses can come out without taxes being taken out. And no other benefit has this triple tax advantage. So the 3 key ways to use an HSA are paying for qualified medical expenses, tax-free of course, building up savings for future medical expenses, also tax-free, and investing for future medical expenses, like in retirement, tax-free. As promised, we're going to take a look at how your clients' employees are utilizing each of these activities today and how they might better utilize them tomorrow. But first, a question we hear from many brokers, employers, and employees is, how do HSAs align with other employee benefits that I may be more familiar with? I'm going to let Eddie take these next few slides because I think it's really important to understand how all of these accounts can work together.
Absolutely, Becky. So we have how HSAs interact with flexible spending accounts, health reimbursement arrangements, and of course, our friend COBRA administration. So to start with HSAs and FSAs. So the IRS says that you cannot actively contribute to an HSA if you also are enrolled in a flexible spending account. However, what you can do is enroll in an HSA and a limited purpose FSA. What a limited purpose FSA is basically an FSA that only covers dental and vision expenses up until the account holder has satisfied the HSA minimum deductible of $1,500 or $3,000. And at which time they can open up their limited purpose FSA to become a regular flexible spending account. So it has the same tax benefit and same other rules as far as eligibility and rollover and election changes as an FSA. It just cannot pay for medical or prescription if you're also actively contributing to an HSA. So who would really take advantage of this type of stacking these two products together? Someone who maybe is healthy from a medical perspective, but has some dental or vision expenses that are predictable for the upcoming year. You have to get some bridges or a crown or a dental implant. Those things can be so expensive. So this allows you to use tax-free, limited purpose FSA money while holding on to your HSA money and maybe investing it and saving it for other expenses or for retirement well down the road. It can also be used to increase the total amount of pre-tax money you can put away by using both the HSA and the limited purpose FSA. So if you're paying for braces or orthodontia or LASIK vision correction, the HSA family maximum is $7,850. You could add another $3,050 through your limited purpose FSA on top of that, and now you're putting away, almost $11,000 in pre-tax money. So there are a couple of different ways you can really utilize this. It definitely takes maybe a savvy participant or employee to understand the benefits here and how this can be leveraged. But I think for folks who do understand and do have that need, it's a great way to save a tremendous amount of money on taxes. HRAs, similar to what we talked about with FSAs, the IRS says that if you are contributing to an HSA actively, that you cannot also have what is called other funding available or other coverage. And what that means is you can't have an HRA that reimburses expenses before that HSA minimum deductible has been satisfied. So the HRA cannot begin to pay or reimburse any out-of-pocket medical expenses until the employee has satisfied that HSA minimum deductible of $1,500 or $3,000. But what you can do is you can allow the HRA to kick in after those amounts have been satisfied. So the HRA can kick in at $1,501 if you want, or as an employer, you could use it to basically decrease the overall exposure for that deductible by allowing the HRA on the back end. Maybe the HRA covers the last 500 of the deductible, or the last 1,000, or 2,000, whatever amount fits an employer's benefits goals and financial goals. I think it can be a great way to still allow folks the benefit of contributing to a health savings account while also capping their exposure by covering the back end of the deductible. And of course, your utilization as an employer should be a little bit lower with that type of HRA plan design, because not all of your employees are going to, make it to the back end of the deductible and even have to access the HRA. So just another creative strategy to improve the overall benefit here while still allowing an HSA to be accessed. And then, of course, we have COBRA. So when someone terminates, you can use your HSA funds for COBRA premiums. And additionally, if you elect to continue COBRA on a high deductible health plan, you maintain your HSA eligibility. Now, you're not making pre-tax payroll contributions any longer if you've been terminated, but you can still make after-tax contributions to your HSA by transferring funds from your own savings or checking account into your HSA, and then you get an above-the-line deduction on your tax return. So you miss out on the 7.65% payroll tax, but you're still saving on federal and state taxes, even if you're on COBRA. So a couple of different ways it can be beneficial for anyone who goes on COBRA.
Thanks, Eddie. And that brings us to part 3. How are people actually using their HSAs? There are basically 3 key activities involved with an HSA: spending, saving, and investing. We'll take a look at recent statistics to see what HSA users are doing in each of these areas in the real world. But first, another poll question.
All right, next poll question. Which activity do you think is most prevalent among HSA holders? You can answer this in any of those 3 categories that Becky mentioned earlier. That is spending, saving, or investing. So we've put this poll question on the screen. We'll give everyone a couple of seconds to go ahead and respond. But these are the 3 different ways that you can utilize or leverage a health savings account. And it's spending, saving, or investing. And always curious to hear what you think is most prevalent among HSA holders. And perhaps you have an HSA yourselves. Always curious to see how people leverage this benefit. And it looks like we are over 50% of our responses have already been received. So we'll go ahead and check out the responses here. And no surprise here, this aligns with the statistics that we're going to review. The vast majority do use money, the HSA, to go ahead and spend the money. They take advantage of the tax savings and then utilize the funds for out-of-pocket costs. And the investing is definitely leaves some opportunity on the table, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
So we're going to start with spending. Are people using their HSAs for healthcare spending? Yes, they absolutely are. And let's look at some statistics and trends. In 2021, more than $30 billion was withdrawn from HSAs, and that's up 2% from the previous year. According to Benefits Pro, 86% of HSA funds are being used to pay medical expenses. Out of an estimated $491 billion spent on out-of-pocket healthcare expenses in 2021, $95 billion were paid for with pre-tax dollars. That is with employee benefits accounts like HSAs and FSAs.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting statistic too, Becky, because at first glance, it's like, oh, great, 95 billion was spent with pre-tax money. That's a lot of savings on taxes. But when you look at the overall spend on healthcare expenses, only 20% is actually being used or spent with pre-tax money. So that is a tremendous amount of money that's being left on the table, or just a missed opportunity. That's money that's going to the government instead of staying in, the participant or employee's pocket. So definitely an interesting statistic.
So what types of purchases are HSA users spending on? Well, doctor visits and prescriptions are the top two, and those are both up 7 and 9%. Other popular ways to spend HSA dollars: dental visits, vision expenses, hospital bills, and over-the-counter medicine, which has also changed up a little bit recently, and we're going to talk about that. One relatively recent development having an impact on HSA spending is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act passed in 2020, popularly known as the CARES Act. So the CARES Act expanded the advantage of HSAs and FSAs by removing the prescription requirement for several over-the-counter drugs and medicines, and by adding feminine hygiene products to the list of eligible expenses for reimbursement. HSA eligible expenses now include cold and allergy products, pain relievers, medicated acne treatments, sunscreen of SPF 15 or higher, tampons, prenatal vitamins, and more.
And I think that's a win for everyone there, Becky. I remember years ago, probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, all these items were FSA and HSA eligible. And then there's always some adjustments with legislation, and a lot of these items went away. And it's great to see that they're back and you can get some of these day-to-day items on a tax advantage basis. It's great for the consumer.
The tax advantage savings that HSAs provide on qualified purchases is sorely needed. Here are a couple of statistics that show just how much healthcare costs are rising for Americans. In the 10 years from 2006 to 2016, out-of-pocket healthcare spending has risen by 53%. And healthcare plan premiums have gone up twice as much as workers' earnings from 2008 to 2018. Eddie, people are spending money. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that second statistic's just a little scary. The fact that the premiums have increased double what the average earnings are, and what that really tells me is that every dollar counts. People are hurting. People need ways to keep more money in their own pocket and to save. And these tax advantage benefits are a great way to do that. So there's definitely a need out there, and I think these statistics prove it.
HSAs are designed to help offset rising medical costs. So as we've discussed, they are attached to high deductible health plans. Because consumers pay a larger deductible with them, high deductible health plans encourage consumers to explore competitively priced options for their health care. And because HSAs let consumers pay with pre-tax dollars, they are effectively saving up to 30% or more on eligible expenses based on the individual federal and state tax brackets. When it comes to tax-advantaged employee benefits related to healthcare spending, many people are more familiar with flexible spending accounts, or FSAs, than HSAs. So, Eddie, walk through the differences for us, if you would, between an HSA and an FSA.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of the reason, Becky, that people are more familiar with FSAs over HSAs is this first category here, the eligibility. So like you mentioned earlier, with an HSA, you must be enrolled in an HSA qualified high deductible health plan. You can't have other coverage, whether it's VA benefits or Medicare, Medicaid. You really just have to be enrolled in that high deductible plan. Whereas with an FSA, You just have to be eligible for the benefits offered by your employer. You don't even necessarily have to be enrolled in them. So I think that's why a lot more folks are familiar with FSAs over HSAs, because it's just it's a larger, more open eligibility list. As we talked about earlier, when it comes to ownership with the HSA, it belongs to the employee. It is a bank account. They're the account holder. FSA, that's an employer-sponsored plan, so the employer owns the account. Both are tax-free. They have similar tax benefits. Funds carry over. With the HSA, again, it's portable. With the FSA, it's determined by the employer. And even if the employer does adopt the rollover provision, it's capped at $610 for plans that start in 2023. It's 20% of the overall FSA maximum election. And then you have the qualified expenses, and those are the same. It's IRS Section 213D. It's medical, dental, vision, orthodontia, and those over-the-counter items there's thousands of items.
And don't forget, though, with an HSA, you can pay for your COBRA premiums if you're still, if you have money in your HSA. There's one other thing I feel like this one forgets. And we're talking about benefits of HSA, but just so we can note the differences. With an FSA, they do get all of their money. It's available to them on day one of the plan year, whereas your HSA is funded as the payroll deposits are made. But we're going to talk about a few ways that you can work through that or help the employee with that. So chances are your clients' employees who have HSAs are using them on qualified medical expenses. But here are a few ways they may be able to make their HSA dollars go even further. When first getting started, employees may not have a lot of money in their HSAs, just like I was talking about. However, they can save receipts from qualified expenses they make out of pocket and reimburse themselves from their HSAs later when the accounts are more fully funded. Sometimes discount programs like GoodRx offer better deals on prescription drugs than are available through health insurance. And so in certain cases, it may make more sense to pay for prescription with HSA funds out of pocket rather than through their health insurance program. And people need to realize and remember that many everyday purchases like aspirin, sunscreen, tampons are now eligible to be paid for with HSA funds. Any other HSA hacks you have for us, Eddie?
Yeah, these are general benefit hacks that, I've learned from some of our broker partners and benefits professionals that really apply regardless of what type of plan you're in. But things like going to the urgent care instead of the emergency room, or asking for a generic equivalent for a prescription drug, or shopping around if you have something like an MRI that you're planning for. This allows you to just obviously save money regardless of what type of plan you're in, but also allows you to keep more money in your HSA, earn interest on that money, invest that money. So those are just different general benefit hacks that I think can be advantageous to an account holder.
So when you're recommending an HSA provider to your clients, make sure that the provider facilitates spending with features such as a smart debit card and a mobile app that makes spending, tracking, claims, and reimbursement processes easy and automated. As we know, participants will do it if it's easy. Many providers now offer advanced funding options as well that lets users pay for expenses with HSA dollars even if they haven't fully funded their accounts yet. Eddie, you use money that's not in your HSA account. What's that?
Yeah, there are more and more HSA administrators out there that are basically attaching there's a lot of different terms for it. You could call it accelerated funding or payroll advance. Basically, if you don't have sufficient funds in your HSA, it allows you to kick in a interest-free microloan to access additional funds offered by your employer, and then you pay that money back to your employer over the next 5 or 10 or 20 pay periods. So really a nice benefit that I think alleviates some of the anxiety of going into a high deductible health plan for the first time when you haven't necessarily accrued enough money in your HSA to cover those types of out-of-pocket expenses.
So are people using their HSAs for saving? Well, kind of. It's definitely improving, but there's still plenty of room for growth, and we're going to look at some recent HSA saving statistics and trends. About $42 billion was put into HSAs in 2021. and about 31 billion was taken out. So it seems that people are to some extent saving. The average yearly contribution to an HSA is $1,646. Now, Eddie, what's the maximum contribution allowed this year?
Yeah, for a single, it's 3,850. For a family, it's 7,850, or 7,750. So, the average annual HSA contribution here is less than 50% of the single amount. So definitely leaving money on the table. And look, we realize people have other types of expenses. You have to pay rent or mortgage and bills. You want to fund your 401k and other opportunities to save and invest for the long run. But there's definitely money being left on the table that, could be better in, the pocket of the consumer than with the government.
So why is it important for people to save more for medical expenses? Well, because a lack of such savings is negatively impacting Americans. 4 out of 10 U.S. adults have delayed or gone without medical care in the last year due to its cost, and 6 of 10 worry about being able to afford an unexpected medical bill. The S in HSA stands for savings, not spending. These accounts were created to encourage saving. How do they do this? Well, they earn interest tax-free. There are no minimum distributions. They roll over, they're portable, and they're owned by the employee, not the employer. So it's their own money that they're saving. Eddie, any comments about these benefits?
Yeah, I mean, now you can, certain HSA administrators actually tie a high yield savings account option to an HSA. So you can actually earn 8 to 10 times more interest than you would in a traditional savings account. And obviously that's important. I mean, you look at inflation over the last year. If your money's just sitting in a savings account, you're actually losing money. So anything you can do to increase that interest, even if you're not comfortable with investing, you don't want to take that risk, look for something, an HSA that has a high yield savings option, and allow yourself to capitalize on the money that's sitting in your account.
That's some pretty good forecasting, Eddie. Look, this chart highlights some of the key advantages that HSAs have over traditional bank savings account. Though, of course, someone does have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan, and they must be used for qualified medical expenses. Eddie, run us through the basic differences between an HSA and a regular savings account.
Yep. So again, some of the tax benefits that we've talked about with HSA, the tax-free interest, the tax-free deposits. The one limitation, of course, is that you do have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. Obviously, with your regular savings account, that's not applicable. Withdrawal restrictions, again, another limitation, but those limitations have to exist in order to, the IRS to allow this to be a triple tax advantage benefit. So you are limited to certain qualified medical, dental, vision, orthodontia, and over-the-counter items. And then you have your deposit limits, of course. So there are caps on what you can contribute each year, but they do go up incrementally every year. And obviously, with a regular savings account, you don't have those limitations.
And one big thing about the qualified medical expenses that you can withdraw, remember, after age 65, it does not have to be for a qualified medical expense. You can withdraw that without penalty.
That's a great point. The penalty goes away. You would pay normal taxes on it, but if you've accrued a large amount of money, I don't think anyone has an issue doing that. So that is a nice feature that, although you lose your HSA ability to add new funds once you're 65, you can certainly, you avoid that penalty.
So because interest is earned tax-free, as we mentioned, and often at higher rates, and there's no minimum distributions, HSAs are very attractive vehicles to build up savings for future healthcare expenses. So it makes sense, if at all possible, to contribute the maximum amount every year to an HSA. And as Eddie mentioned, in 2023, IRS set contribution limits are $3,850 for self-only coverage and $7,750 for family coverage. But as we noted earlier, the average yearly contribution to an HSA is just an average of $1,646. So like you said, half. Make sure any HSA partner you recommend to your clients offers HSAs with features that facilitate savings, such as high yield interest options, perhaps backed by a group annuity from a highly rated insurance provider, as well as more traditional savings options backed by an FDIC insured institution. And make sure that they give the users access to a single portal that allows them to track savings, spending, investing, all in real time. So that's a snapshot of HSA saving. And now our favorite part, let's turn to HSA investing. Are people using their HSAs for investing? Not really. But y'all knew that because you mentioned that before. So here's the statistics on this. Only 7% of HSAs have a portion of their dollars invested. Investing is the most underutilized activity of HSAs. Eddie, is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think this is where there's the most opportunity with HSAs and it's investing. It's my favorite part of having an HSA. And I've spoken with people that have, our clients. One woman comes to mind who's been enrolled in an HSA for many years, maxes out her contribution and her investing. She has over $70,000 of money in her HSA that's growing tax-free. So there definitely are some tremendous success stories out there. I think, part of it is education, which we're going to touch on, but also not everyone can afford to max out their HSA, and we certainly understand that. So I definitely see a ton of opportunity here, and there's some really amazing HSA investment capabilities out there in the market as well.
However, those that are investing have the most robust HSA accounts. Just like Eddie was talking about, the average total balance for HSA investment accounts is over $19,000. That's more than 7 times more than accounts without investments. At the end of 2021, there were $34.4 billion in HSA investment. This represents a 45% increase. So though investments are underutilized, they do represent the fastest growing activity of HSA accounts. And like you said, these balances don't surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to who understands the benefit of the HSA and all combined with who can afford to contribute this much. So, yeah, not surprising. I mean, that those folks who really understand and appreciate and want to take advantage of these capabilities and these tax savings have quite a bit more money in there. So always interesting to see. But like you said, I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of growth in the investment aspect as people, more and more people enroll in HSAs, and also those folks who have been enrolled in HSAs for years start to accrue larger balances and can kind of diversify their funds between their liquid savings account and their investment account.
There is a pressing need for people to invest today with an eye to building funds for retirement. According to EBRI, a couple retiring, both of them 65, will need to have $350,000 set aside just for healthcare costs. And as we've noted, HSAs are unique in offering numerous tax advantages, including no taxes on investment earnings and no taxes on withdrawals for eligible medical expense. In fact, as Eddie mentioned before, after age 65, HSA holders can withdraw funds for any purpose without being penalized. Now, here's an overview of how HSAs compare to 401ks. Because HSA contribution offer greater tax savings than 401k contributions, they give account holders the potential to build up savings faster. For many, therefore, it may even make sense to fully fund their HSA before devoting funds to their IRAs, particularly if there is a low employer 401k match. Contributions for HSAs are significantly lower than for 401ks, however, so HSAs should really serve as a complement to rather than a replacement for other retirement planning investment. Eddie, will you run through this chart really quickly?
Yeah, absolutely, Becky. And I think that you phrased that perfectly. No one's suggesting that HSAs are necessarily better than or replacing 401ks. I think they can complement one another really nicely and build long-term wealth and financial stability. So to looking at this slide, the tax-free contributions, yes, we know that they're both tax-free, with 401ks paying taxes when you access the money down the road. So tax-free distributions, yes, the HSAs are, as long as you use them on qualified expenses. Like we talked about earlier, after you turn 65, you can use them for other non-medical, dental, vision expenses, and then you just pay taxes, but no penalty. And then as you can see on the screen, the contribution limits for 401ks are much higher, but you miss out on the triple tax advantage. So We talked about those HSA limits earlier as well.
So how might HSA users invest more wisely? Because of an HSA's unique tax advantages, it makes sense to make it, if at all possible, the maximum yearly contribution. It may also be a viable strategy if one is in the right financial position to minimize any spending of HSA dollars and to use the account purely as possible for retirement savings. Now, many of us are not in a financial position to not touch our HSAs for spending, of course. But another strategy might be to accrue enough cash to cover any high deductible health plan deductible and then invest any remainder. Many HSA providers offer only rudimentary, limited investment programs. When considering an HSA partner to recommend to your clients, make sure they offer more sophisticated features, such as a choice of investment models to suit different types of investors, as well as the ability to engage in fractional trading and participate in exchange traded funds. And make sure that they have a platform and tools like apps that make trading intuitive and easy. Eddie, talk about these features.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fractional trading capabilities, and not every HSA administrator has that functionality. So, but they do exist. And I think what that can do is get folks engaged in their investing at an earlier stage. You know, if you only have $200 or $300 to invest, but you want a piece of a more expensive stock, you want to buy some Berkshire Hathaway, you know, you certainly can do that through fractional trading. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with investing apps like Robinhood and some others that have those types of capabilities and have become a lot more popular in the last couple of years. You know, now there are some HSA platforms that could do the same thing. And certainly not suggesting this is a great idea, but it can be done if you really wanted to. You could essentially day trade with your HSA, which, you know, a couple of years ago, you probably wouldn't even be thinking about. And then ETFs, I think, are also a great option. They have a lower cost ratio than mutual funds, but still allow you to diversify your investments over a particular industry or area of the market. So lots of great opportunities out there for every type of investor.
So why aren't employees with HSAs using them to the fullest, particularly when it comes to saving for healthcare costs and retirement? Well, for some, it's because they don't currently have the financial resources available to set aside funds for future healthcare. For instance, 56 of Americans can't currently cover a $1,000 emergency expense with savings. In some cases, I've heard that some can't even, I mean, on the average, I've heard $600 even. So that being said, many people simply are not fully aware of the unique built-in tax advantages HSAs offer for investing for future healthcare needs. 35% of employees admit they really don't fully understand their benefits. Eddie, what can we do about this?
Yeah, I think we can help on the right side of the screen with that statistic, lack of understanding and education. And there's only so much we can do on the left side of the screen. You know, it's as benefits consultants and professionals, you know, we can't control raises and salary and how much employees make and what their, you know, out-of-pocket costs are and their living costs. But we can help with education and providing the tools and resources to our clients and their employee base, and making sure that employees have, you know, an understanding of how advantageous these different benefits can be. And what the tax savings are, what the long-term investment capabilities are. So I think that, to me, is our opportunity, is the lack of understanding and the education when it comes to HSAs.
So that's the basic picture of how people are using the HSAs to spend, save, and invest, and how they might use them more efficiently in years ahead. But before we conclude, let's quickly review why people getting the most out of their HSAs matters to employees, employers, and brokers. First, with a poll question.
All right, quick poll question here as we wrap up. In your experience, what is the most attractive aspect of HSAs? And you can answer this as tax advantages, ease of use, meaning contributions, debit card, mobile app, investment management options, or account portability, the ability to retain your funds if you change plans, if you change employers, if you retire, whatever the situation may be. So you should have the poll questions on the screen. You can go ahead and we'll give everyone a few seconds to answer this question, and then we can talk about some of the results. Okay, again, in your experience, which aspect is most attractive about HSAs? Let's take a look at some of these results here. And no surprise, tax advantages leading the way at 60%. And just as those statistics showed us, 4% are on the investment management options. So, like we said, there's three different types of HSA account holders. You have the spenders, the savers, the investors. And I think this shows you where opportunity is, but also how people, look at and perceive, the benefits of an HSA.
And as we stressed, HSAs offer tax advantages no other type of account offers. Users don't pay taxes on what they put in, what the accounts earn, or what they take out. As such, they effectively give users a 30% or more discount on qualified current healthcare expenses and a great opportunity to save for their healthcare in the future. Plus, high deductible health plans with HSAs encourage people to be more active in managing their healthcare, hopefully leading to better health and well-being. As we suggested earlier, quality benefits like HSAs help employers attract talent and decrease turnover, as well as encourage employee well-being, productivity, and satisfaction. Additionally, contributions to HSAs are exempt from FICA taxes, and as HSAs work in conjunction with high deductible health plans, employers realize the savings on premiums and other healthcare costs that these plan delivers. Eddie, benefits?
Yeah, it's a win across the board. Look, an HSA is not for everyone. If someone has predictable out-of-pocket costs, they're a heavy utilizer of their medical plan, maybe it doesn't make sense. But for anyone who is a low or medium utilizer, this can be a great win. It's lower premiums for the employer, lower premiums for the employee. It's great tax savings for both employer and employee. And like Becky said a minute ago, I think these plans encourage consumerism and hopefully allow folks to be more healthy and more engaged in their overall health and benefits.
So as brokers are well aware, high deductible health plans are solutions more and more employers are implementing. When you help an employer find the best high deductible health plan solution, having a good HSA partner in place can be crucial to employees' overall satisfaction with the plan. Employee satisfaction, in addition to cost savings, can be a vital factor in selecting and renewing the high deductible health plan that you recommend. And one last poll question, Eddie.
All right, last poll question. What is the biggest challenge or concern that your clients have with offering HSAs? You can answer this as lack of employee education or understanding of the benefit. B, the financial exposure of being enrolled in a high deductible health plan. C, the service experience from the HSA administrator. Or D, the low participation or contributions from employees. So we'll give everyone a few seconds to answer this. I understand this is a guess, and if you have several clients that offer an HSA, they might have different concerns. But always curious to see what your perception is out on the market and what concerns folks have. All right, looks like we are already at about 50% response rate. So thank you again for your participation with these poll questions. Let's take a look at how folks are responding. And just as we talked about earlier, lack of employee education or understanding of the benefit is over 50% of the responses. The financial exposure being enrolled in a high deductible health plan, totally get that. Not everyone has the risk tolerance to open themselves up to a deductible with thousands of dollars. Before the carrier the plan starts to kick in and covers parts of the expenses. So definitely understandable concern.
So it's clear much work needs to be done to increase awareness of how HSAs may best be used. For instance, fewer than 30% of employers position HSAs as a retirement saving vehicle. Brokers clearly have a key role in helping raise awareness, as do the HSA partners that they recommend. Look for one who offers tools and resources such as customizable collateral, presentations, emails, and even webinars that educate employers and employees about the many advantages of HSAs. Eddie, talk about 401k providers, they come in and educate your employees, right?
Yeah, that's a great example. We have the 401k specialists, financial, planners come in every year and provide some education and some coaching to help employees. It's a terrific value add. And I think there's opportunity to do something similar when it comes to HSAs, including your HSA administrator and part of your open enrollment a rollout, or at least leveraging some of the resources and educational materials that they have, using live or recorded webinars. Anything we can do to promote the great benefits here is going to help save your employees and give them a higher level of, save them money and create a higher level of satisfaction with their overall benefits.
So here we are right at the end. And as we wrap up, Eddie's going to look through some of the poll questions and see if there, some of the question and answers section, just to see if there's anything that we can automatically answer for you before you leave here. And just be assured that if you've asked a question, we will make sure to get in touch with you and let you know the answers. We try to provide everybody with those answers because there's usually some really great questions. Eddie, do you have any questions in the Q&A?
Yeah, there's some great questions here. I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of them, but we can certainly go ahead and cover a couple of these. And like you mentioned, Becky, we will make sure our team follows up for any questions that are unanswered. But one question is, if you're no longer enrolled in a high deductible health plan and have an HSA balance, can you continue to use those HSA funds for dental? The answer is yes. You can continue to spend your money even if you lose your HSA eligibility, or I should say the eligibility to make contributions, but you can always still spend your money. Even if you leave that high deductible health plan, you go on Medicare, whatever the situation may be, that money belongs to you. You can use it on qualified expenses as needed. Do we have a list of local providers in Pennsylvania? Well, we are a provider in Pennsylvania. We're based out of New Jersey, but we work in all 50 states. Also, you can Google HSA administrator, and I'm sure plenty of them will pop up. So lots of good administrators out there. What happens if the employee terminates after using the advanced funding option? That probably varies a little bit from one administrator to another because there's a lot of different ways you can structure that advance. At least with our product that I'm familiar with, the employer can recoup those funds from one final paycheck, unlike with an FSA. And we intentionally structured our product that way to have after-tax money so you can do that. But again, that is going to vary from one administrator to another. Another question, when someone turns 65 and they're no longer able to contribute to the HSA. That is correct because you're usually automatically enrolled in Medicare at 65, so you lose your HSA eligibility. However, another member here, attendee here, pointed out that you can go to the Social Security office to waive Medicare when you turn 65 and allow yourself to continue to contribute to your HSA. That's somewhat uncommon, but it can be done. And other great questions here. If you haven't already received your gift cards, they will be sent out. I'm trying to see any others we can catch. But it looks like
are on the way. We actually, we will actually collect all the information, and you will be receiving an email at the email address that you registered with, and you'll receive your credit in a few days. I think there was another question about catch-up contributions, which I love because that's another huge way to add some big money to your HSA.
Yes, great point, Becky. Once you're 55 or older, you can contribute an additional $1,000 in catch-up contributions on top of the IRS maximum. So a great way to increase your contributions after age 55.
There's also a little known, and it's just so hard to get all this information in, but there's a little known provision that allows you a one-time transfer from an IRA directly into your HSA. So ask us about that. Look, Google that. Look and see what kind of options you have there, because that can really be a big option for you. A big chance. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but that's a good idea.
And I do see another comment here. Are we on any social media platform you'd love to follow us? Yes, we are on LinkedIn. Please don't hesitate to check us out. We're constantly pushing out blogs, resources, information, legislative updates. So with that, we're just about at 1 o'clock East Coast time. Again, some of these, we weren't able to get to, but our team, your local rep, will be following up with you to answer these questions for you.
We also will be sending out a copy of this slide deck, as well as you can go back and review this, and you can download the white papers that we use to create this entire presentation. So we are going to be doing a presentation later this summer on HRAs, so be sure to look for that, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.